Okay, let's begin. Super mundane Buddha knowledge. Wow, that's a really fancy word. What is super mundane Buddha knowledge? This is not really so easy, but he said that if you moment to moment open your mind and keep your mind clear, then you will get this wisdom, this Buddha knowledge. Then the monk asked, if that is so, we have only to know the meaning of the sutra. It would not be necessary for us to recite it. So he said, well, we don't. Why we recite the sutra at all? Why do any kind of practicing at all? And the patriarch said, there's nothing wrong with the sutra. There's nothing wrong with it, which should lead you not to recite it. There's no reason not to recite it. One who recites the sutra with their tongue and puts its teaching into actual practice with their mind turns around the sutra. One who recites it without putting it into practice is turned around by the sutra. So that's a very important point. Here we have many books at this library, many good books. But if you only read the books and the books turn you, the books control you, and when you read the books, you follow the ideas of the books, we say that means the books are reading you. You're not reading the books. The books are reading you. Because when you read the book, your mind follows this idea, follows that idea, and the book actually is reading you. But if you keep your mind clear and you read the book, then you're truly reading the book. This is a point that many Zen masters have made, that if you read a book, it's very important. You must keep your mind clear. All of you, I'm sure, have had the experience of you get a good book and you want to read it on and on and on, find out what happens at the end, get to the final conclusion. But there's nothing wrong with that. But the point here is that if you recite the sutra should be recited not with the object of getting to the end or getting to the beginning, but just to recite the sutra. Just to recite it for the benefit of its own practice. So that's why he says here, when our mind is under delusion, the Lotus Sutra turns us around. With an enlightened mind, we turn around the sutra instead. So that's the important point here. That means that just doing it, moment to moment. The correct way to recite the sutra is without thinking. Otherwise it is wrong. One who is above thinking and not thinking rides permanently in the white oxen cart. That's the Buddha cart. And after he heard this, Fatah was enlightened and he was moved to tears. It is quite true, he exclaimed, that heretofore I was unable to turn around the sutra. It was rather the sutra that turned me around. So he honestly was enlightened to that point, and he saw that it was the sutra that turned him rather than he that turned the sutra. This is a very interesting point. Many of you, especially Korean people, I'm sure you have experience, you go to temple and you see somebody walk into Chogyesa temple or walk into Dosunsa temple or walk into any of these big temples around Seoul. And somebody goes in front of Buddha and puts some money, makes a little donation, or puts some rice, and then holds some beads and starts to pray. Buddha, please give me something for my son. Please give me something for my mother. Please let my husband's business prosper. And while you're at it, let my son go to a great university and become a great man. And let my daughter marry somebody rich. And around. We say this is a Buddha. He is turning this person. Buddha's controlling. This person became slave of Buddha. Buddha's turning this person because they see what they mistakenly think of is the true Buddha. Actually, this is only symbol of Buddha, this golden statue. And they see the golden statue and they think of all the things that they are lacking in, and all the things they're missing, and all the things that their family needs. This is not such a good way to pray. But if we go in front of the Buddha statue and we have just an empty, clear mind, completely empty our mind, just completely empty, and just with no particular wish, we feel already fulfilled, already thankful that we are here alive in front of the Buddha. We're just here, just as we are. Then that Buddha and us are not different. We already are the Buddha. Actually, we already experience our Buddha nature. Then we are complete. Then there's no reason to ask for all these things. If we have a good relationship with our true self, these things will be as possible. But to ask for these things, it's almost like we are turned around by this outside symbol. The symbol controls us, when actually we are the ones who should control the symbol. We are the ones who should be in the charge or be the owner, the juin of the situation. This is a very important. So it's the same with doing the sutras. When we just recite the sutra, like just recite the Heart Sutra with complete sincerity, then we turn the wheel of the sutra. We can use the sutra to enlighten ourselves and to teach others. But if the sutra turns us, what does that mean? And why did he say that? So that means sutra turns us. Actually, we can find the profound meaning if we just empty out our own ideas and we just listen to it more deeply. We can usually find. But it's not a problem to question and ask. That's why I always encourage people to ask questions. If somebody has a question during this talk, don't hesitate. Shoot your arm up and ask. No problem. Okay, so he said, it was rather the sutra that turned me around. And then he said, the sutra says, from Shravaka's disciples up to bodhisattvas, even if they were to intellectually speculate with combined efforts, they would be unable to comprehend Buddha wisdom. But you, sir, say that if an ordinary man realizes his own mind, he is said to have attained Buddha's true knowing and seeing. So an ordinary man realizes his own mind. We have to realize our own mind. Many times we say, oh, my mind is depressed. Oh, my mind is really sharp. Oh, my mind's this, my mind's sad, my mind's blue, my mind's whatever. But do we know what our mind is? Do we understand our mind? Do we attain our mind? In most cases we don't. We cannot see our mind. We cannot touch it. Even though we say my mind is blue, is our mind really blue? And maybe we say, my mind is heavy, or my mind is pounding. Many different things. But what is that we call our mind? So if an ordinary man realizes his own mind, he's said to have attained Buddha's true knowing and seeing. So 3 kinds of carts are mentioned in the sutra. Carts pulled by goats, carts pulled by deers, and carts pulled by oxens. And those are respectively the carts of the disciples, carts of the Pratyeka Buddhas, and carts of the Bodhisattvas. And he asks, how are these to be distinguished from the white oxen cart? Well, these are parables again. White oxen cart is the Buddha cart. And Patriarch says, Sutra is quite plain on this point. You are attached to just reciting it. And he said the reason why the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas cannot comprehend the Buddha's wisdom is because they speculate about it. The more they speculate, the further they are from the truth. It was to ordinary men, not to other Buddhas, that the Buddha taught the sutra. The Buddha didn't teach the sutra for the benefit of other Buddhas. He taught it for the benefit of ordinary people, of sentient beings in the world. And so those who would not accept his teaching left the assembly. They didn't understand they were already riding in the white oxen cart. We are already in the Buddha cart. The sutra is very clear. There's only one vehicle, not 2 or 3. So all these many vehicles and things in the sutra are some kind of parable. Just as I told you before, the businessman who was quite wealthy, the wealthy man whose sons were always staying in the house, refused to leave the mansion where they lived in. the only way he could get them out of the mansion was to tell them, I have toys for you. The mansion's on fire, it's about to fall down, they're all about to die, but the only way he could get them out was, I have toys, I have new cars for you, I have a new Jaguar for you, I have a new Mercedes for you. Come on out, come on out, come on out. And finally the boys came out of the house. And this is like most of us. We don't want to get out of our habitual way of thinking about our mind and body. So we need to have some kind of like toy or new car or something to wake us up. We're just so much into just kind of like many times our habit, our sleeping thing. I mean, it's it's not uncommon. Even, when you live in a monastery like myself, I'm abbot of a big temple in Chungcheong province, and it's so easy to fall into routine. You can fall into routines, into all kinds of routines, and many times the only thing that kind of can get you out of routine is something new, some kind of new attraction, new whatever. But actually, we don't really need something new because always something is changing around us, something opening, like springtime, some flowers opening, some tree is blossoming, something's happening, always new. If we really opened ourselves to it, we could always be inspired. We could find something every day around us. The three vehicles are false. They are just metaphors used to allow us to understand in the past. For you now, this one vehicle is the truth. The sutra teaches you to dispense with the false and to rely on the truth. Once you rely on the truth, even the truth has no name. What is the truth? You should know that you are the sole owner of this treasure and is for you to use. In my country we say, the truth will set you free. But what is the ultimate truth? That's a good question for us. So, you should know that you are the sole owner of this treasure and is for you to use. When you are free from the arbitrary idea that they are the fathers, the sons, or even that they are to be used, then you are correctly practicing the sutra. Then from kalpa to kalpa, the sutra will be in your hand, and from morning to night, you'll be reciting the sutra all the time. Okay? That's all about the Lotus Sutra. So, like I said, the father, the sons, this is all from the Lotus Sutra, and this house is burning, and this house is rotten, and it's going to come down soon, but the sons didn't want to come out. They didn't come out until the wealthy father said, I have these toys for you. And it's very interesting because I think many of you probably had this experience when you were young. Maybe your mother or your father went away for some time, and when they came back from some kind of trip, business or something, I don't know if you've had this experience, but when I was a kid, I remember I used to go to my mother or father and I said, oh, what did you bring for me? And I was hoping they brought me some toy or something. So children are like that, kind of expect some kind of toy. And especially when somebody close to them, like a parent, goes away for a while, like the father or mother goes away for a while, and then they come back. And children really expect some kind of toy or some kind of chocolate or something like this. And this is a human nature, to kind of wish for some kind of toy. Maybe it's not a coincidence that one of the most successful car companies in the world, Toyota, is named partly after a toy. Maybe it's not a coincidence, maybe it is, but I think that most of us, we have this, like, we want to play with something, we want some gadget or something. We kind of like need something to pick us up, to get out of our routine. And Lotus Sutra was parable about that. And even it's funny because that parable was made almost 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. So what was taught in the Lotus Sutra still applies very much today. It still applies to human nature and to people nowadays. So, deeply inspired by the patriarch's teaching, Fatah was filled with joy. He was filled with joy, and he chanted the following poem. He said, chanting the sutra 3,000 times is dispelled by one sentence from the master of Daochi Mountain. Daochi is mountain masters. Sick picture, of course. One who does not understand why the Buddha was born into this world is unable to exhaust the accumulated attachments and wildness of many lives. The goat, deer, and ox are expedient teachings. The Dharma of the 3 stages has been skillfully expounded. Who would know that originally inside the burning house itself lives the king of Dharma? Who would know that originally inside the burning house itself lives the king of Dharma? Well, that's interesting. How did we get to that point? We said the father, the rich, wealthy father, got his children to come out of the house by promising them many toys. But the king of Dharma, the Buddha himself, where does he live? Does he live outside the house? Or does he live inside the house? So these are all arbitrary kind of distinctions. Inside the house, outside the house. If you really want to find the Buddha, you have to look inside yourself. You have to look around yourself. And this inside and outside is also arbitrary distinction. So the Fatah's poem, he said, who would know that originally inside the burning house itself lives the king of the Dharma? So the Buddha, the king of the Dharma, these are not far from us. They are within what we call our mind and body. And the patriarch then told him that henceforth he should call himself a sutra reciting bhikkhu. Bhikkhu means monk. Afterwards, Fatah was able to grasp the profound meaning of Buddhism, yet he continued to recite the sutra as before. So he didn't stop reciting the sutra. He continued to recite it, but his recitation was 360 degrees different from before because he understood the profound meaning of the Buddhist teaching. Are there any questions so far? Any kind of question?
I have this kind of question.
Yeah.
It's that when we are practicing, and normally we have this kind of objective of attaining enlightenment.
Yes.
But my question is, before we actually start this kind of practicing, I just want to know. I just want to have this kind of idea. Maybe necessary to make it clear who is doing. Who is the doer of the actual practicing?
Yeah. So.
Who's the actual doer. Otherwise, even if we have attained some kind of enlightenment, still there can remain this kind of I who practiced it. His I who have achieved this kind of attainment. So when I see some people, some master, when they are teaching, there is a teacher.
Yeah.
They are teaching.
Yeah.
There should be, as far as I understand it, there should be only teaching, not teacher.
Yes.
Kind of an actor of playing the role of teaching.
Yes.
So that I just want to make it clear. And about this idea, and so I just want to ask your viewpoint on this matter.
So attainment is not attainment. No attainment is true attainment. No attainment is a true attainment. If somebody say, I attain enlightenment, it's already a mistake. No attainment is a true attainment. True enlightenment never says, I am enlightened. True enlightenment never stands up and says, I am enlightened, listen to me, I'm enlightened. Never like that. Okay? This is not true enlightenment. If somebody talks like that, then you know already this is not correct teaching. Yeah.
Would you say when you meditate you achieve more lucidity, or is it more consciousness without thinking and without the distraction?
Who is meditating?
You.
Me? Okay, suppose you are meditating. Who's meditating then? Do you understand my meditation? I ask you. Do you understand my meditation?
I was curious of your perspective.
Okay, so when you're meditating, what is a true meditation? Okay, and true meditation means ask yourself, what am I? What do I call myself? Who is it that I call? What is it that I call myself? And sincerely ask that. If you sincerely ask, what am I? What is this that I call my body? What is this? My head, my hand, my body, all these things. Yeah, these are all important things. But what are you? Don't know, right? Do you know? Don't know? No.
Many things.
Many things, yeah. This is my hand, that's my head, that's my chest, my leg. These are all my important things. But that's not my true self. What am I? Don't know. So when you meditate, you must first ask, what am I? Or who am I? Who's meditating? Who's meditating? Maybe you say your name. What's your name?
Caleb.
Kaler, okay. So maybe you say, oh, it's Kaler meditating, but that's just a name. Before you're born, you didn't have this name. When you die, you won't have this name either. Maybe you'll have it, in the memory of people, but you won't have it. So, who is meditating? That if you truly don't know, and you are not afraid of not knowing, if you just go straight, don't know, then this don't know is very powerful. Strangely enough, this don't know has a power to clear your consciousness. Many times we don't believe that. We think, I want to know everything. If I don't know anything, we get upset. But our Zen teaching is the opposite. If you 100% go straight with this don't know, then this don't know has the power to clear your consciousness. And when you completely go straight with this don't know, you just sit with this don't know. Soon, your consciousness becomes clear. It's like a kind of powerful, like cleaning. Okay? Then your consciousness becomes very clear. This is also my experience. That if I pretend to know something, I pretend to fake that I had experience with something, that I later pay for it. That I later very uncomfortable. But if I am open from the beginning that I don't know about something, then this beginner's mind, we say, this mind of the beginner, this mind of just don't know. There's a real potential to get some experience there. There's a real potential to do something there. Okay? So this is our meditation. This is the way I teach meditation, way that also my teacher was teaching. And we can call that the don't know mind. We say that's before opposites, before we start to put the world into opposites. You and me, and east and west, black and white, rich and poor, young and old, all these opposites appear. But this don't know mind cuts through all these opposites, takes us before thinking. Before thinking, that's your true self. That's your Buddha nature. That's the nature of your enlightenment. That's where it's possible for you to wake up. This is how we teach. Okay? Okay, good. Okay, so keep the don't know mind. Then, this chapter has many different, actually, circumstances, many different things, very actually quite full, a lot of different teachings in this book. Sixth Patriarch was one of the first patriarchs to really talk about the mind and apply this teaching of the mind to many different circumstances. And here's another example. A bhikkhu, Chitong, bhikkhu means a monk. He had read the Lankavatara Sutra nearly 1,000 times, but he still couldn't understand the meaning of the Trikaya and the four prajnas. So he called on the Patriarch about it and asked for an explanation. Trikaya, what's a Trikaya? Trikaya is the Dharma body, the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. Okay, these are three kinds of bodies. And these three bodies are usually explained in quite detail in Buddhism. Dharmakaya is a Buddha, the kind of the body that's without form, and the Sambhogakaya is the body with form, and the Nirmanakaya is the actual physical body. And usually this is explained, it was explained in quite detail in the Buddha Sutra. But the sixth patriarch, he didn't want to explain these apart from the true nature. He said if you explain them apart from the true nature, there would be bodhi but no wisdom. So he went on and said, the three bodies are inherent in our true nature. If you realize this clearly, the four wisdoms are manifested, and they are never separate from our seeing and hearing. Naturally, you'll reach Buddhahood. Now that I have taught you, believe it firmly, and you'll be free from delusions forever. Don't follow those who continually talk about bodhi, but never put it into practice. So he liked to emphasize the putting it into practice. Now, there's an interesting story about that. There was once a student of Majo Zen master, and this student, he was a lay person who practiced meditation with Majo, and the two of them were quite well acquainted, and he had a daughter, and he lived at the time, it was in China like 1,000 years ago, and maybe 1,200 years ago, he lived in China, and his daughter, her name was Sur, or Sol, I think, and when the daughter was very young, he taught the daughter how to recite Kwansen Bosal, which is the name of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva in Korean, or maybe it was like a Kuan Yin Bosa in Chinese. And she recited this every day quite diligently. And he also had her in her room. He had a very nice altar with a Lotus Sutra on it, and he had her every day bowing to the Lotus Sutra. She was a young girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and she was quite diligently reciting the Kwansen Bosa chanting and bowing to the sutra. And one day he said that the soul was walking by the stream, and she had just finished doing her laundry in the stream, cleaning her clothes. And she heard the sound of the temple bell from far away. And when she heard the sound of the temple bell, it's like cleaning her laundry and the bell sound, and her mind completely became one. And she really attained something. She really attained some awakening, this young girl. And after that, she stopped reciting Kwansen Bosa, and she stopped bowing to the sutra. In fact, her father came in the room, and he found her, and she was sitting on top of the sutra. She had taken the Holy Lotus Sutra that was on the altar, and she was using it as a cushion, and she was sitting on top of it. And her father came up to her and said, "How can you do this? This book is holy. This is the Lotus Sutra. This contains all of Buddha's holy teachings." And she was sitting on the book. And she looked at him and said, "Father, Can the holy teachings be contained in words? Can the holy teachings be completely, can the truth be contained in a book? Father was like, he was completely surprised. He could not answer. He had never got this kind of question before. And so he was completely stuck. And later he went to the Zen Master Majo, and he said, what should I do with my daughter? I have a problem with my daughter. And Majo said, oh, your problem is not your daughter. Your daughter is not the problem. You have a problem. He thought the daughter was crazy, but he said, no, you have a problem. You're crazy. Then he Majo Zen Master gave the soul's father a poem, and the poem was on a calligraphy. He wrote a calligraphy for her. And the calligraphy said something like this: when you hear the wooden chicken crowing far away, then you'll know your original home. And he took this calligraphy, and the Zen Master said, take this calligraphy and put it in the room where your daughter stays, and she will understand the meaning of that. And so he took the calligraphy and made a little scroll and hung it up in the room where his daughter was. And this calligraphy said, when you hear the sound of the wooden chicken crowing, then you'll know your original home. And she looked at that, and then she said, oh, yeah, okay. Zen Master is also just like that, just thus. And then she took the book and she put it back. What's interesting is what he wrote for her is, when you hear the sound of the wooden chicken crowing, then you'll find your original home. So what does that mean? What's the sound of the wooden chicken crowing? So I will finish with that. On that note, I finished today. Okay? Anyhow. Any question? Any more question? No question? Then we finish. Okay?